Also, in your documentation regarding all three lots, there's one document marked as a topo map. I believe that's short for topographical map, but it has no topographical measurements on it. I think that would be pretty crucial when you're raising land up 8 feet to show how it affects the lots under development and how it will affect the budding properties.
I'm a resident of the corner, basically, of Front and Cannon Street, so I'm very close to this project. And that corner floods frequently. I know the proposed tar box court property is concerned about rising sea level. I'm concerned about rain events and where the water is going to go. We've lived in that house on that corner for about 25 years now, and I've watched it through innumerable storms, whether it's a heavy rain event or some type of named storm. And by raising this property 8 feet, it's going to severely impact a significant number of homes, many of them historic. Are there any proposed drains to empty the water from Cannon Street that will be built up behind an 8-foot rise in the elevation? It's very concerning. The city drainage system is challenging at best, non-functioning at worst, and a lot of this water has to make it over the surface and not through the storm drains in order to get out of our neighborhoods. And that's extremely concerning when the piece of properties that they have to come through, all three of them, my comments are for all three because the details are the same, it's going to be elevated 8 feet. So if it's elevated making some assumptions, if it's elevated 8 feet and that's on top of 8 foot elevation, that's 8.8 feet above the water level. If you look at this, if they go up 8 feet, the corner of Front and Cannon is 5 feet high. So they're going to be 5.8 feet higher than Front Street. All of Front Street, basically from St. James all the way down past my drawing, which is the clock tower, is lower than the proposed bulkhead. And the watershed all the way from High Market, which is 3 streets over, flows through all of this property and out to the Sandpit River. Was that my time? Or was that just somebody's?
You're fine.
Okay. Basically, there are 59 residents directly affected. There's no other way for the water to get to the river if this is done. The clock tower is at elevation 8. It's going to be almost 3 feet higher than the clock tower. The Winyah Indigo Society Hall is at 10 feet. It's going to be 8/10 higher than the Winyah Indigo Society Hall. The Red House store is at 5 feet. This is going to be 5.8 feet higher than a building that's on the historic register. I think there's some really serious implications to putting this proposed 8-foot high bulkhead, and I think a larger picture needs to be considered as to how it affects this historic city that's almost 300 years old.
Good evening and thank you. My name is Patricia Devine Harms. My 2 questions are, have any studies been done, impact, environmental or other, and if they have been, they need to be made available to the public. An easy way to make them available would be to post them where the applications are. In addition to making them available, I think it's important to know who paid for the studies. My other question is, will any public funds be used to build these bulkheads if they are approved as submitted or any sort of altered approval? I think that's also important for citizens to understand.
My comment is really directed to DES and the narrative that you provided, because not to detract from any of the comments today, but you state in the narrative as well as just now there's 8 feet of fill without referencing any data point. The section through the bulkhead wall indicates an elevation of 8 feet, not 8 feet of fill. And I think that gives some consternation to a lot of people. And so whatever the next issue of information comes back out from DES, I would caution you to be more careful about the description. I do not think that there's 8 feet of fill being placed on the site when there's no reference to any data point for 8 feet of what?
I was under the impression that the end of Cannon Street was a public area, and why are we talking about, is the city planning to build, like you were saying, you know, is the city going to be contributing to this bulkhead?
Is the city playing a part in this? Are they paying for anything? Or?
There's been nothing brought to us so far
Okay.
about the bulkhead.
Because the mayor told me there's some kind of memorandum of understanding. I don't know what that is. Do you know?
I do know what she's talking about.
Okay. Can you tell us what that is?
Probably not need to talk about that now. I will say that if there's an improvement along the waterway that someone else is going to pay for, I don't see why it would be a detriment to the city to look upon that favorably.
Okay.
See?
Do you have any answers about where the water would go? That was another question that came up. Where the water goes once it comes across the bulkhead?
That
How it gets back
that
out
is
to-
a legitimate concern. We have no final plans, so I would say reserve judgment. But if someone else is going to pay for something that you know is going to be needed, why would you not consider that?